I mean, maybe we say something super cool and we'll post it on the internet.
I mean, I'm flattered.
Battlefield to the Boardroom here with Kevin. And today we are talking about, frankly, your business model after we catch up. Too often, like we ring hollow because we're trying to sell what we have.
Right.
Not what people need.
Exactly right.
And that's the old value-based conversation.
Right.
You actually have an interesting business model. And frankly, if we were sharing this with the world, like your interesting model is you've taken a lifetime as an attorney and building law firms and small businesses. And then you've tapped into your network just to do some revenue sharing on new introductions. So if you miss it,
the reality is that what I'm doing is happening every day, all throughout the world. Is people have casual conversations, and what do small business owners talk about? The challenges that they're facing in their business.
Right.
And then the other part of the conversation says, "Oh, I got a guy, right? I know someone, or I've had that problem. Let me introduce you to so-and-so." And, what they don't realize is the most valuable part of the most valuable asset that they've built over their careers is their personal professional network, right? They've built what I would call reputational capital, right?
Yeah.
Where they established an ongoing dialogue with someone to the point that they built trust in the relationship. And then what they're doing is, or what I'm doing certainly, and a lot of people are doing, is they're extending the value, the trust they've built in that relationship, right? Or they've curated a vendor by using that vendor in their own business. And what they're doing is they're extending that network to someone else. So they're transferring, people talk about intellectual property, right? So they own a proprietary piece of technology. They own a product. They own a business process, right? But when they're making that introduction to a service provider, what they're doing is they're transferring something of value, right? But they're not doing anything to monetize on it. And the reason that they're not doing anything to monetize on it is because there's really isn't a business model or framework that's been put together for individuals to build residual, recurring, annuitized, passive income streams off of the introductions that they're making to their network every single day.
Well, except if you become an Amazon business affiliate or with a drop shipping, where we overcomplicate and make it sound, like you have to tap into somebody else's network to then do that. Whereas you've just done it off your own network. Like you're capitalizing the relationships you have, which, I mean, like you said, you make three introductions a day.
Right. It can be one business that you make 3 introductions to, right? Because they've got 3 separate problems, or they've got one problem, but you need to kind of cobble together 2 or 3 different solutions providers in order to address kind of the operational complexity of the challenge that they're facing, right? Or I talk to 3 separate business owners and make introductions to 3 separate solutions providers, depending on kind of the unique fashion of their challenge that they're trying to address. But
frankly, it's a model everybody should take a look at. Like, we all struggle to meet new, right? So we attend networking events. I do it. I go on LinkedIn. I ping people I've never talked to before because their profiles look interesting. We're constantly trying to develop sort of a new network, a new market. But, why not find a way to let your market do that development for you without hiring outside sales, without,
Well, here's the one thing that I find that people miss the most is, for instance, when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, right? You'll send 1,000 messages out to maybe get 20 conversations, right? And on the 20 conversations, you might have 2 or 3 people possibly that are ready for leadership training. Like, not to say they don't need it, but are ready to actually, engage and
at any given time. It's not the priority on people's. It's always the priority when it fails, but
that's right. They're not at the point that they're ready to pull the trigger. So in a certain respect, you've got all these folks out there that have a product or service that has a ton of value, but it's a timing thing, right? You have to catch that person at the time that they're ready to purchase. Right. So the challenge they have is, how do I maintain or build a relationship or build trust with this prospect in the interim between the time that I meet them and the time that they actually have finally realized, like, wow, I really do need a formalized leadership training program within my organization. Like, they just, they need it. They just haven't come to the realization that they need it yet. So how do I maintain that relationship? Well, by imparting some value, right? That doesn't have reciprocation formally associated with it, right? So they're not paying me. So how do I build that relationship?
Have you heard of Ben Franklin's advice for like new neighbors?
No.
You ever heard that story? So Ben Franklin had advice when you move into a new house or a new area, because he traveled internationally, all this stuff. His advice was, whenever you move into a new neighborhood, the first thing you do is you go to your neighbors, and instead of baking them cookies and giving them something, you go to them and ask them for a favor, like borrow something, right? And the reason is people don't like owing you. So if you make them a cake and you come over, now they're like, oh, we have to make them a cake or invite them over for dinner. Or now there's this obligation that's heavy on the relationship.
It's reciprocation is part of human nature.
Right. So if you go and ask for a favor, now you owe them, which means that anything they might need or anything that they could do with you, that they'll do with you, and I'll share a little just, in the interest, like our relationship started because we got an introduction. Yep. And then the first thing Kevin did is he did the 21-step challenge. He bought an annual membership and started logging on and taking leadership classes. And then as he was watching that, he said, hey, I was watching these and I noticed you need more customer service. By the way, I can do some introductions of people who do great customer service. And so we hired, a relationship or built a relationship with a company to help us do outreach. But if you'd come in and just said, hey, I want you to contract with these guys doing customer service because it looks like your company could use that, I mean, we never would have gotten on.
Right. I'm selling you something that you don't even know that you need at this point. And so I will tell you all the time. So, there's me, but I'm not a scalable resource. And so I've got 60 or 70 people like me who I basically said, hey, you talk to people every single day and you're trying to sell them a particular service. So what you are is you're a one-trick pony. You've got one thing that you can go to them and say, let me give you value. And they may not even be at the point where they're ready to realize that value. So what if you were able to say to them, I know you can't buy my product today. I know I can't help you with what I have to offer with this product. But let me ask you, what is it that is challenging you right now? What kept you up last night? What are you laying in bed thinking about that's a challenge? And it invites them to, number one, open up to you, have a frank and open conversation with you, and express their problems or their challenges, which is part of human nature as well. People want to talk about the challenges they're facing in life. And it gives you an opportunity to say, wow, I've had that challenge before, and this is how I solved it. How would you like me to introduce you to someone? And now what you're doing, rather than trying to sell them something, what you're doing is you're saying, you told me you have a challenge. I've got something that can help you. And what you've done is now you've established that human nature need for them to reciprocate, right? It may be 3 months from now, it might be 6 months from now, but how much more likely do you think that person is going to be to take your call when the first interaction with them was you actually doing something to help them out?
And don't be impatient. Like if you want to be in business for a long time, you're going to have business pop up from a long time ago. Like I have people call me 10 years after doing a training class that are like, now I'm in a place where I need this. And now the message resonates. Let's do it. In fact, we have a company launching right now that I got a call out of the blue, 10 years old. And the guy, we have leather journals now that we give out in our workshops. The guy had a 3-ring binder from 10 years ago where we'd print off PDFs and put them in the journal. And he's in the meeting with the president of his company. And the president's like, well, what kind of materials come with it? And the guy pulls this 3-ring binder out. He's kept it for 10 years and 2 different job changes. Like, don't be in a hurry. It'll come. It comes together.
Yeah. Well, you in your circumstance, you catch people and they're just at too early of a stage in their organization, right? They're only 3 to 5 people, and they just in terms of where they're going to invest their resources. They're just not at a point where they feel that they have the luxury, even though, I would call it a necessity, but a lot of people see it as a luxury of investing in leadership training. Yeah. But, they may feel when they get to 15 or 20 people that that's the more appropriate time. I would say you really can't start too early, but it's just the reality is sometimes people just have to get over that psychological obstacle of
they see it as a distraction or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they have to go through enough pain points related to turnover or people not acting the right way in particular circumstances before,
right.
How
many employees do you want to lose? How many clients do you want to lose because you didn't address?
Right. You got to sometimes you have to take your medicine first, right? Before you realize that, okay, this, leadership training is something I should be investing in. So,
yeah. All right. Well, hey, that is value-based selling. That is the value of your network. It's a great model that Kevin's got. Thanks for chatting this morning, man. And Battlefield of the Boardroom, like value-based discussions. It's not just leadership. It's a way you can build your entire company and, in Kevin's case, residual income.